I'm fucking home! People keep asking me if I'm having a hard time adjusting to real life again. Or re-entry, if you will. I've always been really adaptable to my surroundings, but I don't see what the big deal is. I think I'm adjusting back to normal life just fine. My name is Liz, but they called me Handstand on the Appalachian Trail. With absolutely zero backpacking experience, I traveled down to Georgia to begin my 2,190-mile hike up to Maine. I spent 161 days walking, hiking, and climbing through snow, rain, more rain, and occasionally some sunshine. While on the trail, I turned 30 years old, had a bout with Lyme disease, and even got married. It was the experience of a lifetime. Now that I've survived my thru hike, I'm super excited to share everything that I've learned with you. So I've been home in Massachusetts for a couple of weeks now, and although I was super excited to finish the trail and get back to real life, it's definitely been overwhelming. I'm very type A and a serious list maker, so that's where I started first. I made separate lists helping me to organize my personal goals, including things like healthy eating, fitness goals, and minimizing my material things. And then a list of business goals to help me get back in the game and to start working on the next steps with my dreadlock studio. Oh yeah, and I had an interesting first day back at work. So it's my first day back at work. We did some clients this morning. Hi, Karen.
Hi.
And welcome back to me because my studio flooded today. So now we had to cancel clients for the rest of the day and rip up the floors, and it's, awesome. Luke and I are enjoying married life and planning to throw ourselves a casual little reception for family and friends next month. Sup, husband?
Sup, wife?
Will I be wearing a wedding dress? Hell no, not my style.
Maybe your daughter will wear a pretty dress.
Now that I've been home and had some time to process the whole experience a little bit, I really wanted to share some of my thoughts with you on the trail. Honestly, it already feels so far removed, like it was just a dream or a nightmare. No, I'm just kidding, a dream. Where do I even start? First of all, I am definitely super proud of myself for finishing. When I first decided that I was gonna do this, I had all the confidence in the world. I knew I would finish, and then as time went on and I was telling everyone about this trip, I kept telling everyone only 20% finish every year, 80% of people drop out, and by repeating that so many times, I think I convinced myself that I wasn't going to finish, that the chances were very slim anyway. I'm a really logical person, and so setting realistic expectations is something that I just do, and I don't know if that was helpful or not, but anyways, I'm glad that I finished. I don't know that it's even fully sunk in yet. So I don't really know how to sum up this experience exactly, but I'm good at making lists once again. So I was thinking I would talk to you about some of my favorite things, least favorite things, surprises, etc., etc. So we can start with my favorites. So my favorite things about the trail, firstly, was camping. I had never backpacked before or camped before. My first night in a tent was on Springer Mountain, and I don't think I was surprised by it, but luckily I really loved the camping experience. I think I loved camping more than hiking, and I did have a lot of hiking experience. So at the end of the day, once you get all set up, hanging out with friends and just kind of relaxing and being in the woods, that was definitely one of my favorite things about the trail. My favorite section was definitely New Hampshire, which is kind of funny because that's where all my previous hiking experience has been. I live right near New Hampshire. It's a really difficult section, but it's just so worth it with all the nice open views. And as far as the difficulty, I personally really like anything that resembles rock climbing. It's just more entertaining and exciting to me than just hiking on flat ground. Other things I really liked about the trail, the people, obviously. I met some great friends that I will stay in touch with forever, I'm sure. I loved being able to eat anything that I wanted. Well, you couldn't eat anything you wanted on the trail. Obviously you're limited to hiking food, but the amount of food that you can eat and not gain weight was nice. Actually, on that topic, I only lost 2 pounds on this trip, and I think I've gained it back in the last couple weeks, so not exactly a big weight loss success. But I didn't gain weight and I ate a ton of food. The last thing I want to mention that I really loved about the trail was just the simplicity of it. In our real lives and society at home, just chaotic all the time. There's always so much to do, and on the trail it's just so simple. You wake up every day, you've got one goal, you're working towards it every day, and it's so nice knowing that you've got everything that you can carry on your back. That's all that you need. Some of my least favorite things about the trail, definitely the rain, which I know there's probably no point in saying because it's obvious, but when you go for a day hike, rain is not that big of a deal when you have someplace dry to get home to at the end of the day. When you're backpacking or through hiking, rain just sucks because everything gets wet. It's so hard to keep anything 100% dry. My hair gets wet, it doesn't dry out. It's just miserable. I also really didn't like big mile days. Anything over 20 miles was just not fun. I could do it, and I had a lot of 20+ mile days, but even on easy terrain, it just gets so monotonous. My least favorite section of the trail was Pennsylvania. Not everyone knows it's rocky, but it's just miserable rocky. The rocks are just so sharp and pointy. There's no dirt anywhere in between, so you're stepping on rocks and you have to watch every single step all day. And then on top of that, it was just not really a pretty area, so it wasn't worth it. You barely got over 1,000 feet ever. There's no views, it's just all bushes. And then I was going through in the dead of summer. It was so hot, all the water sources run dry, you gotta carry a lot of water. I didn't like Pennsylvania. The last thing I didn't really love on the trail was planning. I am, again, super type A, so I plan everything to a T. And although I probably didn't need to go that crazy, and other people that hike, I'm sure, don't go that crazy planning, I can't help myself. So I spent a lot of time planning, and I'm sure that made my trip easier in a lot of ways. I never carried more food than I needed. I was always super prepared for what was coming up, but I just spent a lot of time planning. I don't have a lot of regrets about my experience, but I do have one regret, and that is that I never just slept in my tent. I set my alarm for 5 o'clock every single day for the last 6 months because I always needed to wake up to hike X amount of miles. I like to finish early so I can relax at the end of the day. Even on my days off, I was always catching up on video editing or planning or resupplying or whatever it was, so I was always getting up early, and I just wish that I had built in a few days here and there where I could have a really low mile day or something and just sleep in till I felt like it. I thought it would be interesting to talk about some myths on the trail, or at least surprises to me. One of the first things was that I thought there was a really big party culture on the trail, and in a way there is. There are some people that like to party, but you really didn't see much of it on the trail. That was one thing I was a little worried about because I've been sober. I think depending on who you hang out with, when people go into town, sometimes they party and get crazy. But on the trail, people aren't really packing out beer and booze very often. I mean, you might see someone have a drink here or there, but it's not like people are getting wasted in the woods. A lot of people smoke pot, but depending on who you surround yourself with, you may or may not see that at all. Another myth to me, and I'm sure a lot of people won't agree, but is the myth of trail legs. So when I was getting ready for this hike and planning, I thought oh, everybody says you get your trail legs I don't know, a month in or whatever by Virginia, and I was under the impression it would get easy after that, all the hiking. But to me, it really never got easy. Although you probably slowly build up a tolerance to the hiking and get a little bit stronger, although I started off fairly fit, so I didn't notice a huge difference. You're also slowly upping your miles every day, so even though it's easier to hike, you're adding more miles, so it doesn't ever feel easier. You also conveniently get your trail legs in Virginia, and that's when the terrain starts to get a lot easier. In the very beginning, the terrain is kind of difficult, then it gets easier as you magically get your trail legs, and then it gets difficult in New Hampshire and everybody's back down to 10 miles a day again in New Hampshire. So not that it's entirely a myth about trail legs, but I think I overestimated what that meant. Another thing I wanted to talk about was like epiphanies that I had on the trail. I think a lot of people that hike the AT are doing it to find themselves or something, or they're at a transitional point in their lives where they're trying to figure out what they want to do for the rest of their life. My major epiphany was that I love my life. I am a very competitive person, mostly with myself. I'm always trying to one-up myself, go on to the next big adventure experience, or I don't know, the next best thing. So I've moved to Hawaii and gotten into skydiving, and now I had to hike the AT, and felt like I was always looking for something. And at some point on the trail, I just started really appreciating the life that I have at home and felt really satisfied with what I had. I feel lucky to live where I live. It's so beautiful here, and not that other places on the trail weren't beautiful, but I just started having some sort of a peace within me where I was looking forward to going home, and I felt that once I did get home, I would be really content with what I had. Total days I spent on this adventure, 161. Number of 0 days or days off, 13. Average mileage per day, not including 0 days, 14.9 miles. My highest mile day, 26.7. Miles I slack packed, 0. Number of podcasts or songs I listened to on the trail, 0. Number of nights spent in my tent, 107. Number of nights spent in a shelter, 5. Nights at a hostel, 12. Nights in crappy motels or hotels, 37. Number of times I used a privy, 0. Number of toilets I clogged, 1. Snowstorms, 1. Thunderstorms, I lost count. Number of bears I saw, 9. Moose, 0. Poisonous snakes, 0. Number of ticks I pulled off my clothing, 4. Bee stings I survived, 1. Serious falls I took, 1. Not serious falls, millions. Doctor's visits, 2. Pairs of shoes I went through, 4. Pairs of sunglasses, 1. Jars of Nutella I ate, 17. Fires that I started myself, 1. Number of times I shampooed my hair, 5. Marriages, 1. Divorce, 0. Looking into the future, everybody seems to want to know if I'm going to hike the PCT next year. And as of now, I think the answer is no. I'm sorry to disappoint you. Being away for that long this year not only was financially difficult, but I also opened a business a few years ago, and it was difficult being away from that for so long. So I really need to be home and just work on saving, work on my business. I have, a lot of goals in mind. And doing the PCT, at least that soon, is just not really something I can make happen. As far as doing it ever, yeah, probably. Through hiking it or not is the question. I through hiked the AT, and that is definitely a check off the bucket list. But is through hiking for me? I'm still processing. I really did this trip in with a competitive mindset, trying to see if I could do it, and I did. And I know I could hike the PCT, but the problem I have with through hiking is that you're doing this many miles in this amount of time, and it just makes the experience maybe not as fun as it could be if you section hiked it. Me and Luke have been talking about at least doing a section of the PCT next year just to get back out there. I love backpacking. I just think it might be more fun to do it in a low-key way, where there's not the pressure of finishing in dates. Even if I do a section of it next year, doesn't mean that I wouldn't through hike it in the future. I don't know. I'm just not there yet. I am looking forward to doing some smaller trips. We already have 2 little mini trips planned for the fall. Everybody assumes AT to PCT, but I would be interested in doing something like the Colorado Trail or something a little bit smaller, and how cool would that be? So I'm not entirely sure yet. We will see, and I promise I will let you know. Alright, I think I'm gonna wrap this video up here. I have lots more stuff planned for the future, so hit the subscribe button if you'd like to see more. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions or ideas for future videos, leave me a comment, and I'll see you guys next time.